So we completely blew up the internet on Tuesday. We completely blew up the network here. Everything just went down. Sorry, Dr. Jane Gardner, for having our Tuesday night just go completely kaput. And so we had to take all this stuff home. And thanks to Ryan and Shane, a gigantic shout out to Ryan and Shane for spending 3 or 4 days trying to figure out what in the world was going on with our systems. And holy mackerel, you know, it was like this massive breakdown, this gigantic breakdown. And what a opportunity to breathe and to just kind of like, here we are. And we're constantly having to be confronted with something new and something going on, and it's changing every day. And it's a little overwhelming, isn't it?
Or every moment at times.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, I mean, I wanted to talk to you guys about something. So we've seen, okay, so obviously we're in a global pandemic, but what a lot of people aren't talking about is the effect that it's having on Asian Americans and just people of color in general being blamed for the pandemic. So there's been a huge rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans specifically. And in Midland, Texas, there was a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and their father were slashed in their faces at a Costco, at a Sam's Club, and someone had to step in and take the weapon away. But it's just, I read it and I cried, and I didn't post it on Facebook because I didn't want to spread that kind of negativity, but I read and just cried because this is a 2 and a 6-year-old child. Like, how do they process why this man did that to them and to their dad? It's like, what is our response? What is ours to do when you see stuff like that happening in the world? Like, what can we do? What should we do?
When things are breaking down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in a very real way.
I mean, the heartbreaking thing is I had to call my parents and tell them, please don't go out. If you need groceries, I will get them out to deliver them. Don't go out. Just stay home, stay safe. I'll take, just don't risk it.
And of course, you've got to be nervous about that too.
Yeah. Well, I tell my parents, I'm 6 feet tall and giant shoulders, so I can probably take it, but they're not going to mess with me. But like, my parents are cute little, you know, I don't want them out. I'll take care of it.
Well, you know, it must have been just a heck of a week, wasn't it?
It was something.
I got to tell you, on Thursday, what happened for me is, you know, I've been wanting to do this new offering called the Metaphysical Teachings of Jesus. And there was a point, my chest on Thursday, I hadn't gotten as prepared as I would like to, because it just, more things just seemed to just keep coming and changing, and my chest got tight, and I was just nervous, I was afraid, I was freaked out, and Ryan wasn't going to be there. You know, we're now setting up our house in different ways for Thursday night, and thank goodness Peter was there and Ryan was from afar. But I'm telling you what, we got ready to go, and it wouldn't go on Facebook. So I'm breathing. It wouldn't go on Facebook. And then it was finally, Ryan and Peter got me started, and I'm like, I launched into this like great, powerful start. And then I got kicked off Zoom. Zoom kicked me off. And I mean, 40 people just went away.
Disappeared.
Like that. Gone, like that. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, shit. and I felt like I was breaking down. I wanted to just cry and break down and go, I don't want to do this anymore. What do I do? And I had to have that faith and trust. And thank God Ryan got us back up, and the 40 people got back on or so, I'm not sure. And we moved on from there. But it was hard.
I watched it afterwards, and you were great. I didn't notice.
But but we're being broken open, aren't we? Right? Really significant, hard things, really challenging things in our lives. We're being asked to be and do lots of different things in ways that we haven't done it before. And so that's what we're going to talk about this morning, being broken open, and how that is just a way of being in the world right now.
And there, you know, when the chest tightens, or when the fear comes up, or the internet blows up, I mean, I think the thing to do is to really know that God's got it.
Is moving every day. God's got it. Whatever it is, I trust in God. Whatever it is, God's got it. Whatever it is.
me tell you a little story about how my life got turned around. When I put my heart in God, everything started working out. Every day became a blessing. Whatever's got me stressing, I know God's got my best in mind. Whatever it is,
God's got it. Whatever it is, God is moving every day. God's got it. Whatever it is, I trust in God.
And when I start to worry, let it go in a hurry. 'Cause in my trouble, I know this God will not desert me. My God is always with me to light and lift me. I'm working for God's glory, so I know.
Whatever it is, God's got it. Whatever it is, God is moving every day. God's got it. Whatever it is, I trust in God. The Holy Spirit is in this place, and as I name it, I claim it. The Holy Spirit is in this place, and as I name it, I claim it. The Holy Spirit is in this place, and as I name it, I claim it. The Holy Spirit is in this place, and as I name it, I claim it. Whatever it is, God's got it. Whatever it is, God is moving every day. God's got it. Whatever it is, I trust in God. Whatever it is, I trust in God. Whatever it is, I trust in God.
Oh my gosh, you guys, just hearing that and seeing that just makes me miss you guys so much. My name is Oscar Siang, and I'm the Music and Fine Arts Director here at CSLDallas, and I'm here with Dr. Peter Weldes and Reverend Karen Fry, and we want to welcome our community members. We miss you guys, we love you guys, and to anybody who's new, who just found us, welcome, welcome. You are loved and you are home. Our raison d'être, our reason to be at CSLDallas, we are radically inclusive, we are spiritually progressive, and we are transforming lives, and we are so glad to have you with us this morning. Thank you for being here. Our annual theme is tipping the scales. All 2020 we are tipping the scales, and that could not be more timely than right now. So thank you for being a part of that. I also want to introduce this next beautiful song, Let Me Fall, by the incredible Michael Gott.
Let me fall. Let me climb. There's a moment when fear and dream must collide. Someone I am is waiting for courage. The one I want, the one I will become, will catch me. So let me fall if I must fall. I won't heed your warnings. I won't hear them. Let me fall. If I fall, though the phoenix may or may not arise, away from all these useless fears and shame. Someone I am is waiting for my courage. The one I want, the one I will become, will catch me. So let me fall if I must fall. I won't heed your warnings. I won't heed. Let me fall. If I fall, there's no reason to miss this one chance, this perfect moment, this perfect moment. Just let me fall.
Feels like we're in free fall, doesn't it? Feels like we're in the middle of a giant free fall. And boy, I don't know about you, but I get pretty uncomfortable when my life gets disrupted and when I am confronted with all this enormous uncertainty about how this is all going to play out. And I love that song. Michael sang that song. He actually learned it for me. It's a Cirque du Soleil song. So when you hear that, you think of trapeze artists and people up on the ropes, and sometimes we fall, right? Sometimes in our lives things fall apart, and we fall. And I think we forget in our spiritual teaching and in our spiritual life that our spirituality doesn't necessarily always keep us from falling. And yet what it can do is provide us something to hold on to as we find ourselves in that place of free fall, in that place of complete disruption, in that place of not knowing how the next minute or the next day or the next week is actually going to play out. One of the things that's true about the human condition is that it's constantly changing. The physical reality is forever and constantly changing. And we like to focus on what's perfect. Oh, it's perfect. This is perfect. And now it's perfect. And now I want it to be this way all the time. And yet it's not going to be. It will inevitably eventually begin to change. And when we cling to things and we need them to be a certain way, and we cling to things, or we quite frankly, we just go unconscious and we habitually do things the same way over and over and over again, while at the same time affirming for spiritual growth, affirming for something new, doing our spiritual work for something new, right? Do you see what happens is the dissonance between those two things becomes really great. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, this disconnect between our spiritual truth and how we're behaving in the world. And quite frankly, not only do I believe that we've been doing this in our own individual lives, I think we've been doing this in the consciousness of humanity now for quite a while. And this extraordinary dissonance is really become so great that it has created this massive disruption, this massive breakdown. And that's certainly my experience in my own life. When I am affirming that I am becoming who I want to be, and that person, that being that I want to be is going to catch me, what I'm clinging to breaks down and I fall. That which I'm clinging to no longer works. And I fall. And I have to fall into the arms of that newness that we've been affirming for ourselves and for humanity. And I don't know about you, but sometimes that fall is frightening, scary, and I think mostly it creates this vast experience of uncertainty and the unknown. There is a fabulous phrase in the personal growth movement. It's called break down before breakthrough. It's very difficult to break through while we're still clinging to the old ways, clinging to the old ideas, the old patterns, the old ways of being in the world. And it has to break down so that we can break through. And sometimes people say, well, I want to change. I want to change my life, but what do you mean I have to change my job or change my relationship or change how I think? Oh, I don't want to change. I just want everything else to change. And it doesn't work that way, right? And we have certainly seen that on our planet and in humanity and all of the issues that we've been facing over the last 30 to 50 years. We are in full-fledged breakdown. And so talking about this, Karen and I were reminded of this fabulous story. You know, I'm from Seattle. I spent 20 years in Seattle, and of course, Boeing is there, and their most renowned test pilot, Chuck Yeager. And there's this legendary story of when the 727 was built, and they have this big festival in the summer on Lake Washington, giant festival, and they always fly the planes, and they do this big deal, and sort of Chuck Yeager was going to be out there, and he was going to fly this brand new commercial plane, you know, unveil it, super cool, everybody was really excited. So he got into that 727 and he taxied wherever from the Boeing field, and he got to Lake Washington, and he took that commercial plane across Lake Washington in a 4-point barrel roll as he was flying over Lake Washington. They did not know whether to fire him or give him a medal. They were so furious, and he was like, well, I just wanted to show people that the darn thing was built to fly. It's an extraordinary thing, right? And Chuck Yeager says this. He says, when you're ready to break the sound barrier, right before that happens, everything rattles so hard you think the plane is going to fall apart. That's where we are right now. We're in that space. And I think of that space of breakdown. We're being broken open. We're being broken open from all of the old that we have been clinging to, that we have gotten comfortable with, the habits that we haven't quite yet managed to break, whether they're about caring for the earth, caring for people, or caring for ourselves. We are being broken open so that we can fall out of our humanity and into our spiritual truth. We aren't always taught how to do this, but we have deep and profound spiritual practices that we can rely on as we are falling. This is so beautifully shared and sung about by this beautiful song that we got to hear not too many months ago, right here on this platform. This is Soul Candy, and this song is called She, but it's also he and we, they and us, when we begin to learn how to fall apart.
She feels the beating in her heart. to love. She learned to soar with the doves. Now she walks on higher ground. She lives in her wisdom now. She is the voice of the She is the voice of the one. She is the voice of the one. You are the voice of the one. You are the voice of the one. We are the voice of the one. We are the voice of the one. We are the voice.
Yeah, each of us have to find our own way. No one's really taught us how to do this, and we each have to find our own way to be that voice of the one. During this breakdown, this unprecedented time where so many things are breaking down, how do we manage this time where we're being cracked open? Where do we turn? Where do we start to look? What spiritual practices? All of that. Well, for me, when it feels like I'm this tree that is just shaking and rattling and the wind is just blowing me, tossing and turning, I tend to go down, and I tend to go down into my roots. I imagine like I'm a tree with roots into the ground, and that brings forward for me my roots and where I come from, and my roots are Christian. My roots are about the teachings of Jesus, and we are using a book, as it turns out this month, that is bringing that philosophy of the teachings of Jesus to life. So we are reading together. We're inviting you to get this. You can reach out to BB at officemanager@CSLDallas.org. She'll ship it to you. The Philosophy of Jesus by Ernest Holmes, and it's an updated gender-neutral version. And on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, I'm helping us explore the metaphysical teachings of Jesus. And so the interesting thing about this is that he literally brought spiritual principles to bear. He brought new ways of thinking. He did not teach theology. I talked about this last Thursday night. He didn't teach theology. He brought new thoughts and new perspectives to what was happening right then and there in his time. And so how can we bring some of his thoughts, his new perspectives, his metaphysical teachings into this time? Because as we can begin to dig deep and live some of that, I think it can help us get through this breakthrough. It was interesting that one day, you know, as he started talking about this and living it and exemplifying these teachings, he looked around and at one period he had around 5,000 followers. So that was a lot of people. It's a lot of people to many of us. And his immediate followers were like, okay, we got to feed these folks. They're getting a little hangry. They're getting a little grumpy, and we got to feed them. So I just want to ask you people out there in social media with a lot of followers, if you had 5,000 followers on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, how are you going to feed them, right now. I mean, there were no Burger Kings, there were no McDonald's, there was no Costco you could run to, and here he's faced with all these people that wanted to be fed. And this young child, this young boy had a few loaves and fishes. And this kid, he just didn't even have any concept of what it would take to feed these masses of people. But he had a lot of expectancy, and he was eager. And he just said, well, take these. And Jesus took these few loaves and fishes, and the first thing that he did was he gave thanks. He said, thank you, and then he distributed them. And I think that's like right where he was standing when that child handed him these few loaves and fishes is where we're standing right now. It's like, oh, thanks. And so when we're given something, either in our own lives or collectively, and we're given something, what do we do with it then? Do we go, well, this isn't enough. I don't have enough to get through. I can't handle this. I can't manage this. What am I going to do? Or are we saying, yes, thanks. This is plenty. This is enough for me to get through this moment or these times. Because when we do that, the universe actually will take those words and say, of course, you have enough. And Ernest Holmes talks about this in the book. He says about this, he said, let us think of this not only as an actual, but also as a symbol of ourselves. There is a little child in each one of us. There is a hope and an inward spiritual realization in everyone. Something that is beyond all doubt, fear, and uncertainty. We would not be here if this was not true. And so this is where we are. If this has to be true, that we have enough. We have more than enough creativity. We have more than enough food. We have more than enough shelter. We have more than enough medical supplies. We have more than enough, whatever it takes to get through this, as it feels like everything is breaking down, potentially in our own individual lives, and certainly it appears in our collective's lives. We're also, another beautiful thing, you know, there were so many stories and parables, and he used parables, and there are times where if one can put themselves in his shoes and go, oh my God, what would I do? We can use this to help us move through this time. There was this time where Jesus was placed outside of a tomb, and that tomb was the tomb of Lazarus. Now, there were all these people already upset. The family of Lazarus was upset. They had been asking him to come for days. They were like, you have to come, you have to save him. You know, he's going to die, you have to come now. And Jesus didn't come. And then, you know, he finally eventually did show up, and he's standing in front of this big rock. Can we just imagine, like, you're standing in front of this big rock, and now people are already upset with you. And then you say, okay, roll away that stone. And people are starting to go, are you nuts? I mean, he's 4 days in there. He's stinky. He's smelly. He's decomposing. Like, no, don't do that. And we're standing right here in this breakthrough. We're standing in front of a really big rock. So we've got this breakdown that's going on right now. And how do we move through this? I love this. Ernest Holmes says, well, there's a Lazarus in each one of us. And this is how we got here. This is where we are right now as humanity. We're bound by the restriction of circumstances. We're tied by the habits of thoughts and incarcerated in a tomb from which it seems as though we cannot extricate ourselves. And so Jesus says, loose him and let him go. There is much in each one of us that must be loosed right now. The ropes of fear that bind us, the winding sheet of doubt, and uncertainty, and the darkness and gloom for our self-imposed prison, and the stone that must be rolled away. This is where we are. We've got to let go. We've got to let certain things loose that we've been holding on to, that we've been clinging to, that actually does not serve either in our own life or in the collective life of humanity. That's why it's rattling so hard. We've got to let it loose. We've got to let it go. Peter and I were talking about this, and she said, okay, well, how do you use these teachings, and what do you do when you're really rattling? And I've been rattling a lot these past few weeks. I don't know that there's a day going by where I'm not rattling, and it feels like a lot. There's a lot of people losing friends and loved ones, and there's a lot of stuff up right now, and I'm doing my best to hold all of that for the people in our community and beyond. And so let me just tell you what I do sometimes. The first thing I do is I have to remember that it's okay for me to feel what I'm feeling. I'm starting to visit my car a lot. I go out to my car in the parking lot. I don't drive it anywhere. I go out to my car in the parking lot, and sometimes I scream. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I actually beat the seat beside me. And I feel those feelings, and I can end up getting hoarse or whatever it takes, but I'm feeling those feelings. And then what I do after it feels like I've just let all that loose, whatever it is that's gotten me to that point, is I go inside myself. It's the only place I know where to go at times like this. And I go inside myself, and it starts really small. It's like a little grain of sand in an oyster. Just this little grain of sand. And what I do is I start inside myself, and I start to remember, I recognize, it's the first step in spiritual mind treatment. I start to recognize what I know to be true about God, about spirit, about life itself. I just start recognizing it. What is that? Inside myself. And I hold on to that. And then as I do that, and I hold on to that, inside of Karen, that begins to grow. And I begin to remember and recognize more of what I know to be true about this universal isness and the allness of life itself, this spirit, this universal presence. And it keeps to growing, and it grows, and it grows. And it starts to, like, all of a sudden, those feelings are now shifting, and that expansion is growing. And I can breathe again, and I remember again, and I recognize again. And I go, well, if this is true about life itself, if this is true about spirit, if this is true about this is how life works on the inside of me, then this must be true right now about my life and our collective life and what is happening. And I hold on to that inside of me. And that's what gets me through. And the really interesting thing is as I sit in that, and I don't let go to that, I cling to that as long as I need to. It doesn't necessarily change the circumstances that's happening outside of me. But because I did that, it actually changes where I stand. And because it changes where I stand now, it does change the circumstances outside of me. I think that's what we're being called to do. We're being called to stand in the truth of what we know and how this life works and how it's meant to be in this oneness of life. To be made new and to not let go of that. And that this time, right here and right now, that's feeling like a breakdown is about to be one heck of a great breakthrough. And so we're standing right on the precipice, right now. Here we are, Palm Sunday, right on the precipice. We're standing on this ledge, and we're looking over, and we're wondering if we take a step, Is anything going to support us? Are we going to be able to fly? And we're standing on this miracles ledge right here, right now.
So I'm going to sing a song called Miracles Ledge. It's on my very first CD that came out in 2007. And I wrote this song in one night when we were doing a program called Step Out in Faith. And it was all about stepping out onto the ledge and whatever happens next. And wow, it's really nice to revisit this song, from time to time. I started to see all I could be. Oh Lord, stretch me far. My Lord pulled me deep. Well, I've been there before. My soul asks for more. I step to the edge of miracles ledge. Well, I walk through the flood. I walk through the fire. Waiting there on the other side was my soul's desire. Proud, I live out loud. Oh, I just believe, and then I succeed. So you're gonna leave your mama's arms, see how high you can soar. Child, you are the universe. Just walk through that door.
So here we are, stretched before. I invite us all, every single one of us, to go within. Go within to that collective space, that ground of all being, the Alpha, the Omega, the thing itself, that which is omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent. It is the one life, the one power, the one love, always and forever. This thing itself, God, Spirit, universal presence, whatever one chooses to call it, it is all that there is. It is that which so unabashedly gives to itself so fully and so freely as divine right action, as divine right order, as peace, as harmony, as love, as abundance, that all of life outpictures through all eternity and all space, all time, all that there is. And as I know that this one life is, I know that I am that I am. I am this place. I am this place. I am this place where all of life shows up through and as me. And as I know this to be the truth of my life, that I am the through point of this universal presence, I know this to be the truth of every single person on this planet, every single person in the sound of this voice, every single person that is living and breathing right here and right now, and all sentient beings. And so it is by the power and the authority of the one mind, the Christ consciousness, that I speak the word for the collective consciousness. I speak the word knowing and claiming that humanity is waking up, awakens to its spiritual magnificence, that this is the time, this is the opportunity that has been placed before us for each of us to know that there's only one thing happening here and right now. And we cannot divide ourselves apart from this, that we are unified in this, that we are living and breathing and having our way in this one body, the oneness of life itself. And so what I know is that this one body, through all of the various cells of this body, are taken care for, that all cells are firing at their highest potentiality, that there is wholeness present. Where every breath is, wholeness is. Where every movement is, support is. That there is more than enough support, supplies, there's more than enough care for our medical professionals and anyone having to do with service to anyone on this planet. That I know that there is incredible leadership throughout every country on this globe that knows how to bring the greatest good and potentiality forward. And I know that it starts with each one of us right here and right now. And so I claim that we are be made new right here, right now. That this is the breakthrough moment. I know this is so. I declare it so. Therefore, I give thanks in advance because it is so. And I let this loose. I let it go into the universal law, knowing that the law, in full faith and trust, does its thing. Therefore, I say Ashe, Amen, Amen, and so it is.